Ow. Good back. Yeah, spin that. So straight away I'm going to answer a couple of your questions, and first one is, yes, you just did see my dad squirting brake cleaner down the throttle body so we could drive this into the workshop. The fuel pump's dead, so the only way we could get this to run under its own steam was on brake cleaner, and the brakes are seized, so absolute nightmare to push. Secondly, what is this? Another heap, another project we have just driven into the garage, but technically it's not a new project, it's a parts / donor car. So to most of us who play with our little Nissans will recognise this as a Nissan Almera, and especially if you come back to the rear quarter here, you know, it's a typical 5-door Almera. You come around the back here, and some of you have already spotted the JDM plate recess and the JDM fog light, which means this is a Japanese import. So you're probably thinking, oh, it's got a nice SR20 under the bonnet. Well, unfortunately it hasn't. It's got a GA15DE engine, and if you remember, these are the same block architecture as the QG series that we have in the Micra. So the QG is the newer architecture, and the G8 is the original architecture of that block family. It's nothing much exciting. You know, obviously we've got a manual gearbox, we've got the engine, but the real good stuff is what's underneath the car. So what's so special about what's underneath the car? Well, we've got a nice transfer box here, and attached to the transfer box we've got a lovely prop shaft, and you follow the prop shaft all the way to the end and you see a lovely differential, and you go either side of the diff and you see rear drive shafts. So correct, this is a 4-wheel drive Almera, or technically it's a 4-wheel drive Pulsar, because that's what they called the Almeras in Japan. Now, I was offered this car a year ago and I turned it down, but just lately I've been thinking about the development stage on the K11 and where I want to take it in the future, and I would love to 4-wheel drive convert it. So I remembered this car and I messaged the guy, still had it, and he dropped it down to me last week while I was away. But yeah, so it's got a GA15 engine, which is same block architecture as the QG, which means this 4-wheel drive gearbox will fit that engine. So that's the gearbox side sorted. Bit of a shame, because obviously we've put a lot of development work into the Primera 1.8 box. We've got the diff in there, etc. I have bought another spare gearbox, which unfortunately has come damaged in the courier, to convert that all over to hydraulic, but the gearbox in this is cable, so I think I'm going to persevere with the clutch cable in that for now. We need to figure out what sort of limited slip diff options we can get for this box, but at the back here I've done some measuring between the floor pans, and I'm happy that the subframe of that is going to fit on this. And it's also going to move our track out a bit wider, which, if you can see from this angle, is not a bad thing, because we've got a good 1.5 inches between the edge of the tyre and the arch to bring the offset out further, which will be a nice touch. But other than that, it's actually a real nice setup to work with. So usually you would have these arms which sort of attach to the chassis. Well, on this subframe, they're all self-contained onto the subframe, so you literally just have 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and that's what attaches that entire subframe to the chassis. It's all self-contained, so when it comes to mounting this on the Micra, it means all the geometry is not going to change because it's all integral to the subframe, which is going to make the job surprisingly easier than I thought. Now, interesting fact is I've done some part number comparisons on this and EPC softwares, and the good news is that this entire rear end setup is identical to a Pulsar GTIR, with one exception, and that is these came with open diffs and the GTIR came with a limited slip diff, but the casing's identical, the arms are identical, the shafts are identical, everything is identical to a Pulsar GTIR, just without the Pulsar GTIR tax, and that's good news. I've actually been developing some adjustable arms for the Pulsar GTIRs for a local guy, so that means we can utilise those on this as well. And then I'm hoping we should be able to go to on a GTIR owners club, and we should be able to source at least an OEM limited slip diff, if not an aftermarket limited slip diff. And then we're going to have to make some modifications to the tunnel. I don't think we're going to have to extend the tunnel upwards, but we are at least going to have to compensate some room to fit an exhaust down the side of it as well. I may have to step down to 2.5-inch exhaust once we've got past the initial part at the front of the engine, but I don't think that's gonna hurt us too much. And then we're going to have to obviously mount the carrier bearings to the prop shaft, and then more likely going to have to get the prop shaft shortened as well. Now, it's going to be a shame to tear apart this car because I did want to keep it. My original plan when purchasing this car was to remove the 4-wheel drive gear, put a 2-wheel drive gearbox on it, put a 2-wheel drive rear axle on it, and away we go. Unfortunately, the 4-wheel drive system on this floor pan is independent, and the 2-wheel drive is a solid axle beam, and this the floor pan just doesn't have the mounting points for the axle, which is unfortunate. Also needs a fuel pump, and it needs brakes all round, but you know, I do like the JDM two-tone look, and I was hoping to sort of run this as a little daily, but it's just not going to be plausible cost-wise to mess around putting a 2-wheel drive axle on there. Plus the interior is pretty funky. I think this is called Jungle Interior or something. It looks pretty sweet. And we've got JDM folding electric mirrors on there. So yeah, it's going to be a shame, but again, you know, for what I've paid for the car, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, and I'm pretty sure I can make some money back breaking it anyway. I'm just debating whether to strip it of all its stuff now and break it for parts now, or stick it outside ready for another rainy day. So yeah, I apologise, it's another short and sweet video this week, but rest assured we have got plenty of content going on in the background. At this moment I've got 4-5 videos in filming, all in various stages of completion. Obviously, I can't show you what I'm doing until I've completed the job, filmed it all, edited it all, so just be a bit patient. We have got plenty of stuff going on in the background. Obviously, as I speak now, we have got Time Attack a week Sunday, so as you can see, car's in bits, which is not ideal, but in all fairness, I just need a good solid evening on this to get it back to a state where I'm happy to take it next weekend. Just need to get the tyres fitted. We've got some new suspension to go on, and I need to do some other bits and bobs, which will all be in a separate video. So, are you excited about the 4-wheel drive converted K11? I know I am. It's not going to be an overnight job. I don't want to take this car apart because it's not going to be a weekend job. It's going to be a couple of months chipping away at various evenings and weekends to get to a stage where we've got it 4-wheel drive. If I can get the rear subframe on and then deal with the prop shaft at a later date, I think that's going to be an ideal plan. At least we'll be able to utilise the independent rear suspension on this, which would be nice, styling some camber and toe on the rear end. So yeah, exciting times to come, and it warrants a new name for the car, which will be the K11 Micra GTIR. So if you want to make sure you don't miss any progress on what we're doing with the 4-wheel drive conversion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, obviously. Any thoughts on the 4-wheel drive conversion? Drop a comment down below. I've also got some exciting collaborations to announce, just finalising some details with a couple of them. We've got some new equipment coming to the workshop. We've got some new parts coming for the Micra. So really exciting things. So yeah, you want to be part of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And obviously, most importantly, don't forget to tell your nan. See you in the next video.